Welcome to webinar number 4. Today we will have a look at the new guest journey, and we will talk about how to meet expectations in communication. This webinar will be relevant for everyone who wants to drive engagement, to increase revenue or create commercial opportunities, to the ones who want to become more efficient, and the ones who wants to provide superior service. The challenge of today for many hotels and the industry in general, regardless of COVID-19, is the lack of communication and the lack of interaction with your guests. As a hotelier, you might use email as the only communication channel. You might have no contact with your guests before check-in. You might have limited CRM functionalities, and you might have reduced amount of staff.
Right, exactly. And when you look at the guest perspective, today's experience for many guests out there, and probably especially now more than ever with COVID, there's quite a lot of uncertainty. So from the guest perspective, it's difficult to make decisions. It's challenging to know whether they can book now, from when onwards. They have a lot of questions. And also when you look at the guest experience today, many guests are sick and tired of spam emails. Actually, in my email box, loads of pre-stay emails from hotels end up in my spam folder. I don't even get them. I don't even read it. And if I get it, I also don't read it, because it's this kind of like a catalog of information. It's way too much. It's not personalized. It doesn't feel it's for me. So I'm not reading it. I'm not spending time on it. And adding to that, it's so time consuming sometimes to get what you need as a guest at some hotels. So you need to make phone calls. Sometimes you're transferred between different departments. If you don't prefer to take a phone call, usually the only alternative option is to send an email. Well, sending an email really feels like a letter sometimes. You need to start addressing it. Dear sir, madam, write it properly. It takes time, and time is precious. So long story short, sometimes the guest suffers from not having a relationship with the hotel. And I can definitely relate to that myself, that with many hotels I travel to, I don't feel a strong relationship. So imagine a world where, for instance, I'm traveling to Sydney tomorrow and my flight is delayed. I'm panicking because my whole schedule is messed up, basically. And I'm worried. I'm worried about many things. I'm worried about the hotel where I'm about to stay. I'm worried about whether I can check in. Imagine I get an SMS or a message from the hotel because they can see that my flight is delayed, just ensuring me that it's no problem, that I can check in at any time, that the room is ready for me. Imagine a world like that.
Yeah, and that imagination, Dan, the future looks bright. And when you share the screen, I would like to start the presentation with sharing our definition of the words guest journey and touch points and how we look upon them. So a guest journey is the complete sum of experiences that customers go through when interacting with a company and brand. Instead of looking at just a part of the interaction or experience, the guest journey documents the full experience of being a guest. And the different to touch point, because you could describe a touch point like this. A touch point is any time a potential customer or a guest comes in contact with your brand, before, during, or after stay. And the best way to map the guest journey is to take a walk in your customer's shoes or in your guest's shoes to explore, understand, and improve their experience, and to understand, explore, and improve the different touchpoints. So that was our definition of the words. Now we're gonna show you why it's important to put it in place and how you can do it.
Right. So, yeah, we here at Book Boost have seen so many different guest journeys. We really love looking into them, and we've seen a variety of different ones from hotel to another. And we don't know your guest journey in specific now, but just generally speaking, guest journeys can really differ from the more minimalistic approaches, if you can say so, where perhaps the only two touch points really are check-in and check-out, unless the guest comes to you, right? But otherwise, if you don't put touch points in place to proactively reach out to the guest, that might be the only points, the only touch points that occur during the guest journey. Compare that to a rich guest journey where perhaps the first interaction is already on the website for a direct booker, and then in pre-stay, a message to help them prepare for the stay, to drive engagement, to send, for instance, a packing list, just to be a little bit playful, to send pre-check-in information, to ask your guest questions pre-stay. So you really know your guests already before they come to the hotel. And then when you know them, you can send relevant information. And what we see is that 74% appreciates that. 74% appreciates receiving relevant information, relevant offers as well, when it feels it's for me because you know me as a hotel. And also when you have that relationship, so going towards post-stay in the guest journey, guests are more likely to provide feedback. So 71% who had a positive experience is willing to recommend you to others. So word of mouth and also leaving you a positive review is one of the benefits and one of the effects that building up a relationship has. And this you can do on different channels because it's not just sending it at the right time, it's also having the opportunity to reach your guest. And the world we're living in today, everything goes fast. There are so many things that happen. So how can you get the attention of your guests? Well, by sending a message on the channel, the communication channel that they are used to. So that could be, for me, WhatsApp, for instance. For you, I'm not sure, depending on where you live, but let's say you live in China, it's probably WeChat. Let's say you live in the US, it's probably Facebook Messenger. So looking at where your guests are from, or most of your guests are from, and then using the channels that your guests use brings you in the opportunity so that you can build a personal relationship.
Okay, so let's share an example from one of our customers in Australia. Their hotel is located approximately 20 minutes from Sydney Airport. This example covers the pre-stay phase with pre-stay touchpoint. I will guide you through it. So it's sent out to Hannah. Hannah, and I will read it for you. It's from Dream Hotel. Dear Hannah, it's soon time to come over to Dream Hotel in Sydney. If you want us to pick you up from the airport, you can reserve a lift here. See you soon, Team Dream Hotel. So here we have an example. We moved towards instant messaging. The first touch point in this journey was sent by email. That was the reservation confirmation. But since we know Hannah is on her flight, she will most likely not look into emails. She receives this message through SMS. It increases the amount of service and it increases the amount of her willingness to pay. We drive engagement. We deliver superior service to Hannah, and we increase the revenue. So just to bring up some numbers here, we know, and we can track those, the instant messaging. We know the opening rate for a message like this, when you sit on a flight, touching ground within an hour, and she's checking in, starts to think about how to get there. The opening rate when it comes like this is 99%. And her willingness to click the link, to accept the offer, is close to 60. So here we can, the example here shows like when we drive engagement and interact with our guests, we deliver superior service, but we also increase our revenue.
Then I would like to talk a little bit to you about another example, which is a hostel in the Netherlands. So here things are a little bit more playful. They really try to create this community feeling in their hostel, and they want you to feel like you're at home, basically. So where this guest journey starts now, for them it actually already starts pre-stay, but I want to explain you what they do in stay towards post-stay. So they trigger a message after you've checked in to ask you how you like the room, and to give you the opportunity to let them know in case there's anything that they can do to improve your experience. So it goes as follows. Lucas, warm welcome and happy to have you with us. Hope you like your room, and if you need anything, just text us. PS, here is the Wi-Fi, so that when you just arrive in the room, it's also often time that you take out your phone, and then when you get this message and you get the Wi-Fi, it fits in really, really well into your flow, into the stay. So this drives a lot of engagement for them, which is something they want. Then the next message in their journey goes, hey Lucas, enjoy your last night in town later, with a beer emoticon. You can just drop me a text if you would like to sleep longer tomorrow, and I will fix you a late checkout. Have fun. Like most guests come there, it's at the beach to have fun, it's leisure. And most of them, they go out for a beer at night. So what's key in their strategy is upselling late checkout. And actually before they weren't really successful because they couldn't reach their guests. But now today, since they have this strategy in place, they have sold out their late checkouts ever since. So it just shows that when you find in your guest journey, and this is something to think about for you, when you find like moments of truth, so to speak, where you know that you can trigger your guest or you can improve their service, when you know that and you can translate that into a message that they will actually read, because also this message has an opening rate of almost 100% within 5 minutes, then you create the opportunity for your hotel to to create that what's important for your strategy, whether it's service, whether it's upselling, etc. Then towards post stay, when you have this relationship, guests are more likely to let you know in case there's anything that you can improve, because they have engaged with you. They want you to do better. So even if there's something little, they will tell you. And if they are positive, they are more than happy to leave you review or to recommend you to others. So for this hostel, we've actually increased their positive reviews by 12%. So we're about halfway through the webinar, and here I want to talk to you a little bit about like how does it work then. Hopefully by now you understand the problems that you can solve. There has been some suggestions on how our customers use it and how you can use such a solution. And now we want to explain to you a little bit more like, okay, what's needed for this? How does it work? And basically, technology today makes it possible to connect your PMS, the property management system, with a solution to send out proactive direct messaging. So because that connection can be established, you can automate that flow. You don't need to do it manually because you set it up once. The solution understands from the PMS who's the guest, when do they come, when do they leave, how do I reach them, etc. And then also with a CRM functionality at the core of this, you can enrich data and think of purpose for the travel, for instance. Now, we talked about it before. You can think here of leisure versus business, direct bookers versus indirect bookers. Like the more you know about their guest and the more the solution understands about your guest, the better you can personalize and the more relevant you can make your messaging. And well, putting this in place makes your whole workflow enriched for the guest, while you actually become more efficient. And to explain that, I want to say that think about like giving this to your marketeer, where they think about these guest journeys, they put it in place, then it's sent to all your guests, and your front desk can focus on what they do best, to actually spend time with the guest when they are physically in the hotel, right? So this doesn't have to come from your front desk, or you could do it yourself. You put it in place once, and then it's ongoing. So that makes you more efficient. That frees up time, basically. And since it's messaging, it's all digital, you can also analyze, you can see what it does, compare it to emails or phone calls, where phone calls cannot be tracked. Emails are obviously tracked in your inbox, but there's no really reporting options there. With messaging, you can look at when you have these journeys in place, you can look at, okay, what has been the engagement rate? Also, when guests do reply to the messages, what do they ask? At what times of the days? What remarks do they have? And so on. And that brings you in the position to improve over time, because then when you see patterns, you can, by improving your sequences, by improving your guest journeys, you can tackle that and make it better. So all in all, I hope that helps you a little bit understanding how it works. And lastly, I want to say that, yeah, we showed you some examples. Depending on what's important for your strategy, you can really go wild. So if it's really important for you to deliver a local experience for your guests, for instance, you could think of, okay, what messages can I put in place to communicate that to my guests and to bring them in touch with perhaps some local places that you would like to recommend to them. Maybe it's the service element where you want to ensure that your guests have the greatest experience that there is possibly there, and focus on making sure that they have everything that they need, making sure that you're there for them, lowering the threshold so that they can easily reach out to you. Maybe it's like the example we showed, maybe it's upselling, cross-selling certain services because you do have the facilities, but it's not being used today. So depending on what's important for your strategy, it has different benefits, from increasing service to increase in efficiency to increase in revenue. And that really depends on what's important to you.
Okay, over to me. I will very soon do a summary of what we have talked about and wrap it up. But before I do that, I would like to tell you all that the hospitality industry is going through a tremendous change. And the ones accepting that and the ones willing to change will be steps ahead of the others. And there are a few trends that we could see in the market that is coming more and more and become more and more important. And that is to be able to personalize your offer, to be able to tailor your communication, and to be able to identify different travel habits. And to be able to do that, you need to get to know your customer and you need to put your guest journey in place. So let's summarize what we have talked about. We know the guest journey has to be consistent, it has to be seamless, it has to be hassle-free from a guest perspective. But from a hotelier's perspective, it has to drive engagement, increase revenue, or create commercial opportunities, and you have to be able to deliver superior service. So to all of you, before we end this webinar, we end this 20 minutes, to all of you that would like to learn more about the guest journey, more about different touch points, and you want to learn more about proactive direct messaging, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here to help. We are here to listen. You can also sign up for a demo at our web, and you do that at goodreels.ai.
So thank you very much for listening in today. From Mama, we would like to say take care, stay safe, and hopefully see you in our next week webinar on Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you. Goodbye.